What's going on, y'all? I'm Czar, and in this video, I want to compare the PreSonus Monitor Station version 2 to the Audient Nero. So I recently got the Nero, and I've been using it as my monitor controller over the last few months. And the reason I purchased one is because it has some features that the Monitor Station didn't have that I really liked. So in this video, we're just going to be comparing these two and my experience with these two. This isn't a video to say one is better than the other, but if you're looking for a monitor controller, I think these are two of the more popular ones that are available. So let's take a closer look at them. Okay, so here's the Audient Nero, here's the PreSonus Monitor Station version 2. So before we get into the differences, let's talk about the similarities real quick. So they both have metering, they both have 4 headphone jacks, they both have mono, they both have mute, they both have dim, and they both have talkback. So where we get into differences is the Nero has a phase, and also the Nero has an 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch input on the front for headphone 1. I like that the Nero has the headphone jacks on the back versus on the top here on the PreSonus, because it keeps the front of it looking more clean. If you had a lot of headphones plugged in here, it could just start to not look visually appealing, if that matters to you. Looking at inputs, the PreSonus has 2 inputs and then a aux that can also work as SPDIF as well. Looking at the Nero, we have 2 inputs, an alternate input, and a Q input. And the alternate input can switch between aux, coax, and optical. So more options on the alternate input here. So one of the big things that I noticed that I do prefer about the PreSonus is that it has a Q output versus the Nero that has a Q input. I'd prefer to have a Q output over the input, especially for the way that I have things set up here in my studio. Not a big deal, but something to be aware of. Uh, the speaker, so you have main, alt, and sub. So the Nero has a dedicated sub input, whereas the PreSonus you have 3 speakers, and you can set speaker C to work as a sub, but when you're switching between speaker A and B and you have the sub on, with the PreSonus, you're going to hear the full frequency range of speakers A and B combined with the sub. That is something I didn't like, so I do like that this has a dedicated sub input. And you also have an extra pair of speakers. Something I don't like about the Nero here is that, and I noticed this with the Audient Evo as well. I forget where Audient is based out of. I know they're not an American company, but we read from top to bottom, so I just don't understand why it's labeled from the bottom to the top, which is just very odd to me. We have main at the bottom, and then alt 1, alt 2, and then sub at the top. Or I would think that it would go top to bottom the way that we read. Even the sources here, you got headphone 1, 2, 3, 4 going from bottom to top. That's just odd to me. Where you see the PreSonus, it goes from the top down. Other things to point out, one of the features I really like about the Nero is the smart controls, which I really got a hang of a whole lot quicker than I thought that I would. So some of these functions, for example, the dim, if you want to control your dim level, if you just hold dim, it's going to flash, and then you can use the volume knob to set it. And this is one of the big features that I really liked that made me choose the Nero, is that I can trim the speakers from the unit itself. I can hold any one of these, and as they flash, I can adjust the speaker trim with the volume knob for any one of these monitors. Whereas the PreSonus, you have to get behind it and set the speaker trim that way. So y'all know that I've been going through a lot of monitors looking for some new monitors, and I knew that it was really going to annoy me to have to keep climbing behind the PreSonus and setting the trim for each monitor that I set up that I wanted to AB. So really like that feature with the Nero. That and having the dedicated sub are the two main reasons that I chose it. All right, let's take a look at the back. Looking at the back here, the first picture, the one on top, is the Audient Nero, and the bottom is the PreSonus Monitor Station version 2. So one thing you'll notice looking at these right off the bat is that the Nero has a mic input on the back. This is for an external mic to use for your talkback. You can choose between the internal talkback, you've got the external mic, and you also have external 48 volts, which means that you can apply phantom power to a condenser mic if you want to use that for your talkback. One thing I like about the PreSonus over the Audient here is that the PreSonus is just more labeled, easier to follow. We have line outputs, speaker outputs, your aux, SPDIF inputs, all clearly labeled on the PreSonus. Looking at the Nero, so we have your main, alternate 1, alternate 2. And so you've got 3 sets of speakers, then you have your dedicated sub. Headphones 2, 3, and 4. And remember, headphone 1 is on the front versus the PreSonus Monitor Station, where you have 3 speakers, A, B, and C. And under the speaker outputs, next to the A, B, and C speakers, you see the speaker trims there. And that's what I was referring to, having to get behind the monitor station to trim your speakers versus the Nero that allows you to do it from the unit itself. Both of these have your SPDIF inputs. And I've listened to the SPDIF input on both of them. They both sound good to me. They're not, I would say, they're not on the level of my higher end converters, but this isn't, the main purpose for this, in my opinion, is not a converter, but the converter does sound good to me. I wouldn't say great, like this doesn't stand up to my higher end converters, and I don't use it in my workflow, but you do have the option for a SPDIF in here, which is a nice thing to have on a monitor controller. A big difference here, I believe I pointed out already as well, that on the PreSonus you have, under the line outputs, you have a Q output, whereas on the Nero you have a Q input. Both of them have stereo inputs for 2 sources, and you also have an optical on the Nero that you won't find on the PreSonus. Other than that, pretty similar, basic stuff. 3 monitors. Again, I really like the dedicated sub on the Nero. Lastly, let's talk about the sound. So both of these are active units. They are not passive, but I do not feel that either of them colors the sound to where I'm displeased with listening to audio through them. They both sound good to me. As far as the sound quality, I feel like they're on par with each other. And I do feel kind of sad that I'm breaking up the family a little bit here, because for a long time I've had the PreSonus Fader port 8 and then the monitor station next to it, and then you see the Atom there. So kind of breaking up the family there, but with the extra features that I get with the Nero, I have been very satisfied with it so far. So hopefully this video will help you decide if you are looking between these 2 monitors. Let's talk price real quick. The Nero is $499 US. Monitor station version 2 is $329 US. So there is a nice price difference between the 2, but again, I feel like the Nero offers more and has more features. If you don't need those features or don't care about that, you can certainly go with the monitor station. I'll have a link in the description for both of these products if you want to check them out and learn more about them. Any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. I want to invite you to check out my podcast, the Faders Up Podcast, where we discuss pro audio and beyond. We discuss everything from recording to gear to the music business. So if you're an audio engineer, songwriter, recording artist, music producer, this podcast is for you. We recently started season 2, and we're going to have a lot of listener questions on this season, as well as some really cool guests that's lined up and giveaways as well. So if you've already subscribed and followed the podcast, thank you. If you haven't, it's available on all platforms, and I encourage you to check it out. Also, rate it and review it and let us know what you think.